human being in general, we are identical, but your experiences are very personal. There are times growing up that people will tell me that I like fashion, and my conservative Christian nature, at that stage of my life, I felt like, when a Christian likes fashion, isn't that ungodly? But now I've come to realize that is my personality. It is maturity to understand that people can have different stories about you, and they can all be true at the same time, and they can coexist at the same time. When you talk about your process includes your stories, what you've been through, what has been through you. Let me give an example of Bible character. Like, imagine Sarah, the wife of Abraham. Imagine Sarah creating a coaching class on how to handle side chick. Do you think that class would sell? Imagine Sarah talking about overcoming infertility. Do you think that kind of content would sell? Okay, now let's talk about David. Imagine David as an author on a book on how to work with a difficult boss. Do you think that book would sell? Of course. You will buy the coaching class from Sarah. You will purchase the book from Paul. You will purchase the book from David because of their process, because of the experience that they have gone through. You will buy that book from Moses on how to lead stubborn people because of the process that he has gone through, because of the stories, what he has gone through and what has gone through him. That's the process. Welcome to my channel. In this video today, I'm going to be talking about personal branding. A lot of folks talk about their personal brand. When you hear about companies, they talk about how to brand their products, how to use their branding as a marketing tool, how to use their brand to promote their product, to promote their business. When you think about branding, I want you to understand that branding is a new caption word that people use for reputation. Branding is the Gen Z word for reputation. 5-10 years ago, the word branding was not that popular. It was not a caption word. But in this age of social media, in this age where content is king, where impression matter, and where your impression on others is key to whatever business you want to create, you want to be able to understand your personal brand. Your personal brand is key to your business, is key to your success in life, in business, and in any process that you are part of. I want to make sure you fully understand the elements of branding. So first, you want to understand your essence, which means you want to understand yourself, you want to understand your value, you want to understand how you perceive yourself, what you think about yourself, because that is very, very key to branding. When people talk about personal branding, sometimes people hire people to do their personal branding for them. But the first question you want to start with when it comes to personal branding is that you want to understand how people generate effect on others. So I want to make sure that this video is very practical for you to understand. And a branding or even building your reputation is a journey. It is not a sprint. It's not something that you just it's a journey. It's a journey that you want to fully understand that it takes time to build a brand. It takes time to build a strong brand. When you mention companies like Coca-Cola, when you mention companies like Nike, when you mention people like Michael Jordan, when you mention people like Socrates, those are people that have built a personal brand around something. They've built a reputation around something, and they are known for that. So your brand, your reputation is the vibe, the aura that goes ahead of you before you even enter a room. So when your name drops in a room, the vibe that you generate on others, the impression that people have of you, the importance of your presence, of your person, of your story, of your process, kind of feeds into the impression that people have about you, and that kind of feeds into the brand, your personal branding as a person. So you want to first understand, how the human generates effects. How do people perceive your essence? So you want to think of human as we starting off as being an individual at the lower basement of life, just understanding ourselves, thinking we are the all in all and everything is about us. So you start at that lower level where you are just figuring out your individual, understanding yourself, and at some point, in that journey at the basement level of understanding self, you think you are the all in all, you think you are the most important thing. But at some point, when you start rising in that your individual journey, you realize that there are other people, other components, other parts that you fit in, and that fits into your own personality. As you move on in your journey of self-discovery, you will start noticing that people need you, and you also need other people in your life. You need relationship in your life, and you need people around you. So being able to understand how people perceive your essence is very important, and how you also perceive people's essence. So this video, I want to make sure you fully understand the whole process, the whole element that comes into personal branding, into creating your reputation, the things that people know about you, the words that go ahead of you into a room that makes people want to say, let's do business with her, let's do business with our company, and the words that make people hear about your business, that makes them want to connect with you, the words that people hear about you that makes them want to put your brand on their business. So that is your personal brand. And the key elements, there are not so many videos out there on personal brand. I looked at myself. People will just go on and tell you to show up, to make sure you show up in your truths, to make sure that you look presentable. Those are important, but until you understand the reputation, then the journey to personal branding will be like a mirage. So you want to understand the foundation, and in this video I want to start with those foundational elements of personal branding. So the first aspect of your personal branding that you want to first understand is your personality. Your personality. You want to fully understand your own personality. And what do I mean by your personality? Your personality are your unique and consistent patterns. Your unique and consistent patterns of thoughts, of feelings, of behaviors that characterize your individual. So those are the unique and consistent things about you. The consistent things that are fed into from your value. So when you are a person, sometimes we don't know how we show up. This journey to finding your own personal brand, sometimes we don't know the effect you generate on others. So understanding your personality, your unique quality, your consistent way of reacting, your consistent thinking pattern, the way you feel about things, the way you behave, that characterize your individual, that people can describe you as, that is the sum total of your personality. That is the sum total of your individual traits. So your personality is the sum total of your individual traits, is the sum total of your characteristics that distinct you from others. So there is this thing that I want you to understand, that human beings in general, we are identical. And what do I mean that we are identical? Humans are not that different. We all have heads and our torso, and our eyes is in a particular place. In our features, we are very similar. But your experiences are very personal. So whatever experience that you have as a human being is very personal. Your journey as a human being is very personal. And your traits, your characteristics, how you show up in your feelings, in your thoughts are very personal. So the first element of understanding your personal branding is that you want to understand your own personality. And sometimes, when you want to understand your personality, you have to first follow your own truth. But that you say something is the truth doesn't mean that it's the truth. Sometimes we tell our stories that are not completely true. So you want to first realize that the truth that you tell yourself might not be your complete truth. That's the honest reality. There are times growing up that people will tell me that I like fashion, and my conservative Christian nature, at that stage of my life, I felt like, when a Christian likes fashion, isn't that ungodly? But now I've come to realize that is my personality. I like to look good. I like to show up good. That's my personality. I like fashion. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing unchristianly or ungodly in being a personality that likes fashion, that likes to show up and look good. So, when people would tell me that was their truth, but my own truth I wanted to tell myself at that point is that I'm just being conservative. I just like to look neat. But now I've come to realize that there are two stories or different stories that we can hear about our personality. Your own story that you're telling yourself, other people's stories that they know about you based on the effect you're generating on them, and your creator story about you. And there is a need to realize that multiple truths can coexist. It is maturity to understand that people can have different stories about you, and they can all be true at the same time, and they can coexist at the same time. So when you want to think of your personality, when people feel that this is the effect that your personality is generating on them, that is their truth. That may not be completely your truth, but that is their truth. And personality is a key element to personal branding. You want to first understand yourself, and you want to understand how people perceive your traits, how people perceive that your personality, how people perceive your behavior and your system and your structure and your characteristics as an individual. Your personality is the first step to understand in your personal branding, because your personality is the sum total of your individual traits and the characteristics that make you to be distinct from others. That your individual traits makes you distinct and makes you interesting as an individual. So so when you want to think about branding, personal branding, personality is key. And then the second thing is you want to understand your presence. Your presence. So what is a presence? Presence can be an aura, the way people feel around you, or the way you make people feel around you. When you want to talk about presence matter. So I started my career in the banking industry, and there are different aspects of the business of banking. There is the commercial banking, there's a retail banking aspect, and there are staff that are hired to go out there and market the products of the bank, either retail, either investment banking, either commercial. There are marketers that are hired to go out there to just market the product. Some of those marketers, they make sure when the HR, when they are hiring them, like it's part of their process, they hire ladies that have a certain height, that looks like even a certain skin color. They want them to look attractive. They want them to have a certain look, and and to be a power dresser. And for the guys, like all the marketer guys, they have a certain eye. They want them to have a presence, like a charisma. They want to have them to carry themselves with some level of dignity and respect, and how they show up, so that when they come into like the businessman's office and they ask him to invest $50 billion in their business, the business person looks into their eye and wonder, okay, it looks good, it looks confident, I think I can trust him with my money. Your presence matter. Is part of your personal branding, and that's something that people don't pay attention to. That when people reach out to you and they tell you to do like marketing stuff for you, or to wear their product, there is an effect that your presence is generating on them that is making them to reach out to you. I was watching this video about Michael Jordan when Nike wanted to sign him up to put his name on one of their shoes, and the mom was having conversation with the manager that was trying to get him on board. And, you know, the mom was very confident about, if you're putting my son's name on that shoe, part of the royalty and the income that is coming from that shoe, percentage of it is coming into our family account. The mom knew the presence. He knew the presence of the son. He knew the effect that the son would generate on that shoe. He knew the investment, the process that's gone into the name called Michael Jordan. And because of that strong personality that Michael Jordan has in that his area of skill, that kind of give him a presence in that business that continue to make boys and men to want to buy Michael Jordan shoe. So that's the way you want to think about presence. Human beings carry presence. When you don't understand the presence that you carry, you are wasting a lot of your talent. You have to understand that even God needed human to take care of human. Human has presence, and that presence is a valuable branding tool. Your presence is a valuable branding tool. You know, for Michael Jordan, they put his name on that product and he continued to get some royalty from selling the shoe. I think it was 2020. There was this Nigerian research firm that reached out and they wanted me to sit on their board, like be a part of their non-resident scholar. I thought to myself, I'm not based in Nigeria. I do a lot of research on African and sub-Saharan African and developing economies, but I'm not based in Nigeria. But I have experience in the international trade space, particularly for developing economies. I've done quite a number of work on understanding the impact of trade with China on developing economies. I've done some quite a work on understanding the impact of trade on productivity growth among firms. So that is what I have done. That is the characteristic that I've displayed through my career growth, through my educational investment. So now, given that this company is reaching out to me, what they are trying to draw from is using my presence to promote their company, to promote their home brand. So every human, you want to recognize your presence. You want to recognize how your presence promotes the brand, what you generate, the effect you generate, which feeds to the next element. The next element about personal branding. You know, when I was talking about my presence, bringing my presence to sit on that board, I believe maybe sitting on that board cost me, like sometimes I will share some of my paper with them. They will put it, sometimes they will want to share some survey data with me and want me to look into their survey questions to provide some feedback. It's not like I'm doing a lot of work for them. But to them, having me on their website, having somebody that has that background on their website kind of give them some validation and give their brand some level of validation. And that's why how you want to think about presence. So presence matter, how you show up matter. And how you show up depends on your process. Your process is that third level of elements, the third level element that is key to personal branding. You know, when you talk about your process includes your stories, what you've been through, what has been through you. You know, just let me give an example of Bible character. Like imagine Sarah, the wife of Abraham. Imagine Sarah creating a coaching class on how to handle side chick. Do you think that class would sell? Imagine Sarah talking about overcoming infertility. Do you think that kind of content would sell? Okay, now let's talk about David. Imagine David as an author on a book on how to work with a difficult boss. Do you think that book would sell? Okay, now let's talk about somebody like Paul. Paul is is an interesting personality. Like imagine Paul is a tough guy and he's talking about how to become tough in your ministry. Do you think you would purchase that book? Of course. You will buy the coaching class from Sarah. You will purchase the book from Paul. You will purchase the book from David because of their process, because of the experience that they have gone through. You will buy that book from Moses on how to lead stubborn people because of the process that he has gone through, because of the stories, what he has gone through and what has gone through him. That's the process. A process is your input to your output, your input to your output. Sometimes we don't want to acknowledge our process. We don't want to acknowledge how the good, the bad, and the ugly that we have gone through fit into how we view life. But that process is very, very key to our experience in life. It's very, very key to our personal branding. It's very key to our personal branding. In your process, it is your story. It is your story. It is your business. It is your process. It is your lesson. Because failure is also a lesson as much as success. If Samson should write a book on how to manage loss, a lot of us will want to buy that book because he has gone through the process. He had learned a very hard lesson from it. Failure is also a lesson, and that process fits into your personal branding. When you want to talk about branding, you want to show up and show all of yourself and bring all of yourself. For me, authenticity is key, and I want to be all of myself. Sometimes people will hire branding manager to create a brand for them, to create a brand for their product, to create a brand for their business. But a brand that you create that doesn't fit into your personality, that doesn't fit into your process, that doesn't fit into your kind of presence is a fake brand, and that business will not stand the test of time. When you create a product, a business out of a fake branding, it's going to be, the success will be short-lived. It's going to be for ephemera. It's going to be a short-lived success because it is not built on your personality or your presence or your person or your process. Because people buy a product based on emotion and they justify it by logic. I'm going to repeat that again. When you approach somebody to come and invest in your business, or you approach them to come and purchase something from you, or to be part of what you're working on, either in the office, to be part of your project, people look at you and they ask, why should I be part of this project? Why should I invest in this business? Or why should I give this person my money? Or why should I buy their products? The first thing that they do is that they make that decision based on emotion, based on how much they like you, how much they like your person, or how much they like your process, how much they like your stories, how much they like your traits and your characteristics, or how much they like your personality, or how much they like your presence. And then they justify it by logic. When you understand that piece, you will understand marketing. Because when people look at you, when you approach people and you want to sell them a product, or you want to approach them and you want to create a strong presence in them, your personality is key. Your process is very important, and your presence. Your presence. What do people feel when they are around you? Your presence. What do people feel when they are around you? It's very, very important. So your presence are based on your process, your stories, what you have been through, what has been through you. That's how it all layers up. And then before I jump into the final aspect of personal branding, and before I move to the P part of a product, I want you to know that the story that you're trying to hide from people are the stories that is going to connect people to you. People connect at a high level. We connect with people based on similar vibe. When we see that we have similar vibe, then we connect with them. So before you start talking about branding a product, or branding a business, or branding a person, or create a reputation, first you want to understand your personality. You move into understanding your presence, how you show up, and then move into understanding your process, what you have gone through, what you have been through. Let me just say, let me use a personal example. when I was still trying to like get a job after grad school, and I applied to different colleges and private sector for my job. So I was interviewing with this school, and I was talking about, it was an assistant professor position, and I was talking about all the classes that I've taught, the macro and the macroeconomic principle classes that I've taught. I was talking about all the intermediate classes that I've taught. And there was the lady asked me a question. She said, oh, one of your referees said you had a baby in the middle of the semester. Can you tell me about how you were able to balance between having a baby and in the grad school at the same time? You know, to me, I felt like I don't want them to know that I that I'm a mom, or that I have a lot of other work to do outside of work. But the truth is that when good companies, when they hire you, they want you to bring all of your presence to the classroom. When colleges want to hire you, they want you to bring all of your presence. That I, as a mom, have kids that I'm taking care of, kind of help that college feel like if she's already showing some leadership and helping her kids and training them, she would bring that presence into the classroom. The story I was trying to hide from them is what was actually attracting that college to me. That was because I didn't even mention that in my spiel, in my tell me about yourself question. I didn't mention that part that I had a kid in the middle of the semester. But one of my professors felt that was a very big accomplishment for you to be in grad school, and your first year you came in pregnant, you passed your comprehensive exam, and you were able to graduate with your PhD with 3 kids. To that professor, that is a big accomplishment. To me, my insecure self, I felt like, why do I need to tell them that I have all these other people to take care of? But to the school, that accomplishment was what was getting them attracted to my person. You want to know that your truth is different from the truth. The story you are telling yourself is different from the story that other people are telling themselves. And multiple truths can coexist. And to recognize that multiple truths, it's a high level of maturity. To be able to know that if people think this is the way they perceive me, and there is benefit in me for it, then I just want to know that multiple truths about me can coexist. As long as it doesn't go against my value. As long as it doesn't go against my principle, as long as it doesn't go against my own strong value. So, the last element, creating personal branding, is your products. Your product is very, very important. You want to make sure your product is of high quality, but everything that I've mentioned, the 3 P's I've mentioned earlier, would feed into your products. Your personality, your traits, and your characteristic will feed into your personal products. Your values will feed into your personal products. Your process will feed into your personal products. Your presence, your personality will feed into your personal products. And you want to make sure your products, it could either be a good or a service, something that you create some sort of benefit for others, something that people try to create some product that try to generate effect on others. And you want to think about these products before you even get to branding, to the level where you are working on a product. You want to first work on your personality, your process, your person, your presence, and then your products, because every other aspect of you will feed into it. Before I wrap up in this video, let me just share a quick trick about personality and what I've been working on, even for myself, in my own reputation, what I've been doing with my own reputation. There's a video that I've done on understanding my personal value, which is part of understanding my person. You want to first understand your person, and for me, you want to also understand the effect you generate on others. In the journey of understanding the effect you generate on others, you have to be authentic and you have to be open. You have to be ready to take the comments that people will tell you. Sometimes what you perceive as your effect is not how people perceive your effect. It's not how people perceive your effect. And sometimes we underestimate ourselves. we think of ourselves so low, and people will tell us, oh, this is how I think about your product. This is how I think about your person. This is how I feel the effect you're generating on me. And you know, in the journey of personal branding, you want to recognize that how you show up matter. How you show up, how you present yourself matter. The presentation of yourself is not about wearing something expensive, but making sure that you show up, you're looking good, you represent yourself well, or you represent the brand that you carry well. There are things that when you see brand ambassador, there are things that they can't do, there are places that they can't go, there are activities that they can't engage in because of their personal branding. So I sit on different religious and academic board, on research board. I sit on different board, and the personality that I bring to my social media presence, I want to keep in mind that I am not only representing myself. At some point, people kind of connect me to those organizations that I represent, including either my church, either my workplace, either my business, or even the boards that I sit on. So when people see my personality, they see that personality of joy, of love, of peace, no drama. They kind of quickly assess it that this is a lifestyle that I want. Where does she work? Oh, what product is she selling? Okay, I think I like the kind of lifestyle that she's living. She doesn't engage in drama. And because of that, it builds your community. So how you show up matter. You want to show up with your personality. You want to make sure your personality is not something you're hiding. You want to show up in your personality. It is very important, so that the true people that value your personality are the ones that you are drawing to yourself. And once you show up in your personality, you want to look presentable. You want to look presentable. You want to present yourself the way you want to present yourself. How you present yourself matter. How you show up matter. You want to present yourself in such a way that people can respect you. You know, there was a post that I did on my social media, and I was saying I'm not somebody that I try to pretend. I like to be my authentic self, and I like fashion. I like to dress well. So I was supposed to pray at church on that Sunday, and I was thinking it's summer. I would have loved to wear something that shows some skin because it's summer. But I thought to myself, I'm part of a church that's conservative, and I felt at that point I am not only representing myself, I'm representing the church, and I'm representing the leadership of the church. Because as I show up on that podium, I'm showing up because some leadership decide that I can do it, and they gave me that opportunity. So I am not only at that stage, I am not only representing Yewande. It is not only my personal brand, I'm representing all the experience and the investment of people that got me to that stage. So how I show up in that stage is not only dependent on me, on my own personal taste. I would have to consider the taste of other people. And that was it. I said, okay, we're going to wear something that would cover the skin a little bit, and I show up, and all they paid attention to was the prayer, which is the focus. I was going there to pray. I wanted them to focus on the products, the output, not on me. But to me, I need to get myself to that point to show up to represent all these other people that have contributed to my process, so that when I show up not only as me, I show up as the stories and the process that is behind my success. At that point, I am centered, because I am not only showing up with my personality, I'm showing up in my process, I'm showing up in my presence, and I'm showing up as the presence and representing the glory of God who has called me to be on that stage. When you want to talk about personal branding, it is very important to start with your personality, understand your person and the effect you generate on others. You want to recognize your process, the good and the bad and the ugly of life. It's key. It's part of your process. It's your story. Don't hide it. You don't know who is going to connect to that. And you want to come up with your products. because that product is how you serve your community and create value. Thank you for joining me on the Our Platform. My name is Yewande. See you in the next video.